I think I cracked Sarada. Somewhat. Now when I say I cracked Sarada, I'm also referring to a unique power-up she might gain later on in the series. A power-up that might scale her up to the level of Otsutsuki, and I think it makes perfect sense. My theory is that Sarada will gain access to the rinnegans of Madara Uchiha. Now, I know this might sound like a stretch, but hear me out. Yes, Madara's rinnegans were deactivated when he died since he only had his Sharingans activated. Well, at least in the anime version of events. In the manga, his eyes were grayed out and haze similar to Itachi's when he was on the verge of death as well. However, we do know that this doesn't mean that the eyes are dead as seen by Sasuke using Itachi's eyeballs to this day. This just means that the power was sealed off, which is the downside to attaining such power as explained by Itachi. But the key thing to note is that this power can be reawakened by implanting that eye into the eye socket of another clansman, which just means another Uchiha, preferably a parent or sibling. So whether we use the anime or manga continuity, the eyes are still usable by another Uchiha clan member. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in addition to Madara no longer having the Sharingan activated in the manga continuity, we can also see that his rinnegans mysteriously disappeared. However, this doesn't mean that he lost the dojutsu, since it was shown that Madara could deactivate and activate his rinnegans whenever he wants to, as seen when he activated both rinnegans to absorb Naruto's Rasengan, and when he later met Hashirama with only one of his rinnegans activated. So we can come to the logical conclusion that Madara only having his Sharingans activated at this point in time wasn't because he lost his rinnegans, but more so because he was heavily fatigued and couldn't maintain using it. So if they were to implant Madara's eyes into Sarada, she would just be able to use his eyes normally. Now there's one more thing we need to address for this to make sense, or for it to track logically in story. In part 1 of Naruto, Kakashi explained that they would normally burn a ninja's body upon the point of death so that the corpse doesn't yield up the secrets to the skills the body once held. In fact, the only reason why Tobirama didn't burn Madara's body the first time he died was because he wanted to gain the secrets to Madara's powers. So while we can say that they likely burned Madara's body along with his eyes after the war, I would say it's more likely that they burnt his body but kept his eyes. It would be rather foolish to destroy the eyes that has the ability to use the most powerful dojutsu in existence at that point in time. And it's really easy to preserve these eyes, as seen with Obito having jars filled with the eyes of the Uchiha clan members killed during the Uchiha clan slaughter over 5 to 6 years ago at that point in time. So it would be safe to say that they probably have those eyes locked away, or they gave it to Orochimaru so that he could run experiments. Now that we've explained how Sarada could get these eyes, let's look into how it can boost her power. Now we know that the Rinnegan is made up of Hagoromo's 6 paths chakra, which is why the only way to unlock the dojutsu is by merging Ashura and Indra's chakra to obtain Hagoromo's chakra, as was the case for Madara. The other way to awaken this power is by getting the eye directly from Hagoromo himself, which was the case for Sasuke as stated in the databook. This simply means that if Sarada gets Madara's Rinnegan, she will receive the 6 paths chakra buff, since the Rinnegan would supply that chakra and power to her body. And we know for a fact that dojutsus do supply chakra, as confirmed when Obito stated that the chakra and power of Madara's Rinnegans was too much for him to handle. We also have Sasuke stating that he can feel Itachi's power flowing into him after implanting Itachi's eyes and awakening the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. This is also backed up by Kakashi stating that he can feel the 6 paths chakra amp in Obito's eyes after Obito temporarily gave them back to him during the fight with Kaguya. So what Obito's situation proved is that it doesn't just work in one way. A dojutsu does amp your chakra and power, but your chakra and power can also amp your dojutsu, as seen by Obito's regular Sharingans being amped by the 6 paths chakra supply to his body by Madara's Rinnegan. So it's like a circle jerk of sort. Now what this means is that not only are Madara's Rinnegan 6 paths amped, they are also Tensei's Jinchuriki amped and Ashurama's Cell amped, as was Obito's right eye, which is why he never went blind from using his Mangekyo Sharingan, even though he doesn't have EMS. Now we're gonna take these same Rinnegans and implant them into Sarada, which means that she will likely be amped by all that power as well and receive the same benefits. The funny thing is that this isn't even the scary part. If we go back to the war arc when Obito betrayed Madara and fought him alongside Kakashi, Madara, when thinking about how he should kill them, said maybe I should get this over with quickly and use Limbo. Then said no, I shouldn't while Obito has my Rinnegan, which is referring to his left eye. Now why would Madara not use Limbo in front of Obito just because he has his Rinnegan? Is Tenta's Rinnegan Madara really afraid that a weakened half-dying Obito would somehow defeat him or his Limbo clones when the Limbo clones are stated to be equal to the user in all aspects? I highly doubt that's the case. I think it's more likely that Madara didn't want to use Limbo in front of Obito because if he did, Obito would likely become aware of the ability and use it himself since he has one of Madara's Rinnegans, thus having the ability to use Limbo. So now with multiple Limbos, with Rinnegan, 6-pass chakra and Kami hacks along with everyone else on the battlefield, it would have likely been more troublesome for Madara, so it makes sense that he would take that precaution. So let's say we give Sarada Madara's eyes and she triggers his Rinnegans, which she should be able to do since Madara was able to activate Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan and use his ability, and so was Kakashi. It shouldn't be different for the Rinnegan since it's just another stage to the Sharingan. Sasuke wasn't able to deactivate his eye for some weird reason, but Madara clearly could, as pointed out earlier. So if Sarada triggers his Rinnegan and someone tells her about the Limbo ability, she should be able to use it. Now another way to look at it is that she might gain her own unique Rinnegan ability. This makes perfect sense because all Rinnegan users thus far seem to gain additional unique abilities even though they all possess Hagoromo's Rinnegan, in the sense that Madara awakened Hagoromo's chakra in order to awaken Hagoromo's Rinnegan, but he gained a unique ability Hagoromo never possessed, which is Limbo. And then we have Sasuke, who legit got Hagoromo's Rinnegan directly from Hagoromo, but manifested the ability to switch places with objects and the ability to travel through dimensions, both abilities Hagoromo never displayed himself. So what this means is that Sarada may unlock a unique Rinnegan ability when Madara's Rinnegan mixes with her DNA and mutates, which is my hypothesis on why each Rinnegan user gains a unique ability even though they all possess Hagoromo's Rinnegan. It's by way of genetic mutation or maybe chakra combination. The only Uchiha who didn't awaken a unique dojutsu ability upon getting Hagoromo's Rinnegan was Obito, but he himself stated that he could barely handle the power of the Rinnegan and opted to not use most of its unique abilities for this very reason. But as it relates to Sarada specifically, these are just the Rinnegan abilities. We don't even know what her Mangekyo ability is gonna be, which would be separate from anything the Rinnegan provides, but will be amplified by her having the Eternal Mangekyo, Sharingan, Jubi, 6-pass, Hashirama, and Rinnegans that Madara possessed. Now in regards to her Mangekyo ability, there's one thing that Boruto has in common with Naruto, and that's how it uses Japanese and Hindu mythology as a guide when creating certain characters and also the manifestation of certain abilities. We can see that especially in the creation of the Otsutsuki clan members introduced thus far, with Kaguya being heavily influenced by the story of Princess Kaguya, Momoshiki's character being that of Momotaro, who is ironically a hero in Japanese folklore, and also Kinshiki, who is influenced by Kintaro, who was a hero from Japanese folklore similar to Momotaro. The list goes on with Shibai, Ishiki, and Urashiki, but I think you guys get the point. This of course leads us back to Sarada, who recently awakened her Mangekyo Sharingan in chapter 80 of Boruto. This is very significant since the Sharingan abilities and the Sharingan itself seems to have a direct link to one specific folklore. Well, at least when it comes to Sasuke's bloodline specifically. That of course being the story of Izanagi and his children. Now I've already covered this in the video shown on the screen right now, but in essence, Amaterasu, who is known as the Sun Goddess, is also the name of Itachi's black flames said to burn as hot as the sun. Tsukuyomi, who is known as the Moon God, is also the name of Itachi's second Mangekyo ability, which allows him to cast a powerful genjutsu that alters the target's perception of time. Then we have Susanoo, the Storm God, which also refers to a humanoid avatar readily available to any Uchiha who has mastered both of their Mangekyos. Now when it comes to Sarada, Amaterasu would be your first bet since she is the Sun Goddess and well, Sarada's Mangekyo is shaped like the sun. That would be the obvious conclusion, but for some reason I don't think it would be that simple. It kind of feels too easy, not to mention the fact that it's overused. Now I'm not saying that Amaterasu itself is completely useless since it does has its place against the lower tiered characters who can't absorb jutsu, which likely means that these are characters that are barely relevant to the power system within Boruto. So I can't see how this would help Sarada in any way, and normally when a character gets a power up of this magnitude, especially with the Mangekyo Sharingan being the natural peak of any Uchiha not modified into oblivion, that power up should mean something and should challenge the current power structure in a meaningful way. That's why I decided to dig deeper, and this is where I found Amanazaku, the daughter of Susanoo, the storm god himself, known as the goddess of rebellion. Now the most important ability she possessed is the heavenly counter skill, which is basically a dark type counter whenever she's hit with a physical attack. In the actual game itself where she's featured, the ability is shown as her just countering any attack done to her with a dark energy attack which deals damage. Naturally, this doesn't mean that this is what Sarada's Mangekyo ability will be. She won't just receive an exact replica of this ability. That was never the case for the other Mangekyo abilities derived from the other gods, so that likely won't be the same here as well. How I see it is that her ability could be somewhat similar to full counter used by Meliodas in 7 Deadly Sins. Based on what I've gathered, this ability basically enables its wielder to reflect attacks aimed at them back at their enemy, but with double the amount of power. Therefore, the stronger the opponent's powers are, the stronger the user's power becomes. Now this does sound absolutely broken, and that's because it is. We have to realize that Sarada has no natural way of actually being physically on par with the top tiers of the verse, unless some unforgivable power cliffing takes place, which is always possible. But aside from that, her only hope of actually being relevant to the current meta is by having an ability that allows her to scale to them without being physically as strong. So her having an ability that allows her to reflect physical or chakra based attacks at twice the power would easily do that. Now of course this power must come with some drawbacks that matches the strength of the ability itself. This could be similar to full counter where the user cannot initiate any attacks themselves, and they also won't be able to reflect attacks if the opponent does not allow them to read the nature and timing of their attacks. Or it could just stick to Naruto's go-to where it just requires a lot of chakra to maintain the ability and puts a lot of strain on the user's eyes themselves. So there are multiple ways they can just put like a cap on the ability itself, so I don't think we need to worry about it. Although Damon does have a very similar ability and it doesn't seem to have any weaknesses at this point, but Sarada having an ability is somewhat similar to his might be the full counter we need to stop Damon, but we'll have to just wait and see. With that being said, let me know your thoughts down below. Of course we have Timeskip Sarada in the recent chapter of Boruto, but we haven't gotten to see her abilities as yet. So when we do see her ability from the Mangekyo Sharingan, what do you guys think it will be? And do you think it will be similar to what I mentioned in this video? Also, do you think she will get the Rinnegan using the methods I mentioned in this video? And if she does, would you guys be okay with it? Just let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and drop a like if you like the video and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.